Yeah.
God damn! I have Strange Fright first episode. Fuck. I was gonna like have this whole thing in mind, and I'm like, oh no, shit! The camera's on me, and I don't even have the webcam.
You don't even have the webcam.
Oh no, I'm baby. Okay, fuck it. I'm just gonna go into it. We were talking about isekais about this because like there was this whole discussion on the server the other day about like what does or doesn't constitute an isekai, and I'm looking at this topic and it kind of occurs to me that shit is like the most nebulous non-genre I've ever fucking seen. Cause, goddamn,
what?
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I hear just fine. What's up?
Okay, no, I was just I kind of just like tripped over my tongue though, but it's like like we go back in time to like fucking Alice in Wonderland and how that shit was considered an isekai like nowadays because it's just a little girl going to another world but then going back. But then like we went into this like discussion about like what I really hate about modern isekais is kind of like you have to frickin' die to go to the other world. Because it kind of removes that whole thing. It's like, why don't you just start the story there and it doesn't have to be another world like to begin with? Aside from like the tropes associated with it, and even then the tropes are kind of really loose to begin with.
Yeah, but then it also becomes like, do you have to be locked into that world for it to count, or is it just like you go there for a period of time and then you go back and forth, or do you have to stay there?
Like I feel like a lot of the times it doesn't like you can be an isekai and have it one way or the other. Like, my favorite example, Digimon, the first season, you fucking go back and forth all the fucking time by, like... Oh, wait, no, that was actually the season 2, where you went back and forth all the time by jumping through computers and shit. I mean, Code Lyoko can count as an isekai, now that I think about it.
I remember... Pokemon and Digimon were, like, the only two animes that were shown when I was a kid. And I remember me and my big brother, we were watching... Digimon, and we never really watched the first episodes. We only got to where the guy with the goggles around his neck, Tai, and the dude with the green shirt,
Matt. At least in English, I forgot what the fuck his name is in Japanese, but
yeah, but we came to like a point where the angel had to shoot them with an arrow or something, and there was like, there's a pretty good chance you will die. Or there's a good chance that your Digimon is gonna like ultra evolve. And I remember we got to that episode where and of course the Digimon's ultra like evolve or whatever the fuck. And it was just like if they fired up for the 3D and we were just losing our collective shit. And and from that point we were fucking in. But then there comes a point. I don't know if it was after or before, and the reason why I don't know is because Danish television, when it came to what is showing animes, where they just got a batch of episodes, and then they would just show them. So a lot of times you would get repeats, or you would get like something that was like before one episode or after, or sometimes after an episode, and you wouldn't have like a way to know. Like for example, Dragon Ball, we would watch. Like the whole Goku versus Vegeta, the first fight. We will watch that like 6 different times, and then they will get to Namek, and they will meet Riiser and never evolve, and never like reach the Super Saiyan part. But we got to this point in Digimon where I think they are pulled back into the real world, and they are like big confused as to why, and we were just going, what the fuck is this? Because like we thought, like we hadn't watched the beginning. We didn't know that they were actually trapped in a computer or whatever the fuck they're in. So we were just like, why are they in the real world now? I thought this was just a weird cartoon.
Oh god, that sounds like hell to go through. I never even considered people did shit like that.
It was bad.
Oh my god. That would make sense if you're doing like a normal Western cartoon where everything's just a non sequitur and it's like you can show this one and this one, but like when some things were all in like a certain order and like, oh god, that's giving me a goddamn stress.
It's so extra dumb because like they would also do this with Western cartoons. I don't know. Did you ever watch the cartoon SWAT Cats?
Yes, I've seen SWAT. Oh God,
bro, SWAT Cats was the shit.
Yeah. Oh God. First off, yeah, it was.
But like, I remember there were like some episodes where, so it wasn't like a continued narrative, but like sometimes you would have one or two episodes that led directly into one another. We wouldn't even get those in order. The dumbest part was the one we got was Batman the Animated Series. Batman the Animated Series, they kept that shit streamlined from 0 to 100 all the way through.
Oh my God.
So, yeah,
hold on.
Go on.
You kind of cut out there for like a couple seconds.
Oh. I just said that with Batman the Animated Series, they kept that thing streamlined all the way through, like episode 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to however many episodes there were.
Oh Jesus! I'm sorry, just like the whole batch thing just gives me anxiety to think about, and I'm like, I'm hoping they don't do that shit anymore, and realize like keeping things continuously, especially for everything that's being made nowadays without a continuous narrative. Oh God,
I actually don't know like what kids watch on TV these days.
Oh my God. Well, to be fair, like you'd have to. I don't even watch TV anymore. Like everything I do is online, but like watching YouTube. Like our favorite show, the Webcomic Relief. Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast.
Oh my God, that transition was sexy.
I learned from the best.
That was great.
Oh God.
But yeah, hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of the Webcast Relief, which is hopefully going to be a weekly installment if everything goes as planned.
Hopefully.
Yeah, obviously, like both Claudia and I have our own personal lives that we need to attend to. I have a job coming up soon. I don't know when and what.
I was about to say, like, I recently, actually yesterday, I got an interview for a job, and they might take me up on it. I need to figure out in like a week or two.
Oh, nice. But yeah, so we both kind of have our own stuff. So the plan was that every week around this time, which is Claudia, help me out here. What is it?
It is 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in America right now.
Yeah, and it is 4 p.m. in Denmark. And we were planning on doing it at this time every Wednesday.
Wednesday.
And then... It's not Wednesday?
It is Wednesday, yeah.
Oh, okay. I was like, what the fuck? Have I slept? So we were planning on doing this every week. And then we're going to put it up on Twitch for streaming, where you guys can write. I can see that I haven't even put in the chat thing. I need to work on that. Anyway. We will put it up here, and then we will upload the episode onto YouTube afterwards, and we're going to look into uploading it on all of your go-to streaming services like Spotify or whatever other platforms. I actually only listen to 2 podcasts, so I don't know what other platforms there are. But yeah, that was the plan. But again, this can be subject to change with both the fact that Claudia and I have stuff going on. But we will try and keep it like a weekly thing as much as possible.
Yeah.
Right, Claudia?
I like honestly like as long as we're doing this together, I can see us being pretty consistent about it. Also, just wanted to quickly mention, we opened up an email specifically for questions, which we will be answering at the end of the podcast. So if you have any questions to give us, please send it to webcastrelief@gmail.com. That's webcastrelief@gmail.com. I could not contain myself. I'm sorry.
What was that email again, Claudia?
I'm glad you asked. I said it is webcastrelief@gmail.com.
Where people can send all their questions in and topics and stuff as well. Maybe fan art.
Ooh.
Oh. Yeah, so basically that is the official email for the podcast. I'll see if in the future I can't put in a thing where it says that on screen while we talk. But yeah, welcome to the show. We won't be interacting as much with the chat as a normal stream would be, I feel, because the whole plan is that we have a show to run and everything. But if we do see a topic come up in the chat where some people either wants to correct us or they want, or we can see like there's actually a topic to talk about here, then we will absolutely take that topic and roll with it. So by all means, do keep on chatting, and we are both keeping an eye on it. But just know that if we don't answer it, it's not because we're not interested. It's just because like this is kind of like the structure of the show that we had planned.
Exactly.
Go on.
And so I know we have like what we have on screen as our first topic, but since we did kind of start to talk the podcast with that whole dialogue, I do want to mention, like, the chat did bring up a good point. Like, what exactly defines an isekai is such a fucking loaded question.
Yeah.
And it's like, we were just talking about it, where it's like, the only thing that kind of defines it is, like, all the general things that, like, kind of, like, are associated with the tropes. But it's like, the idea is, like, you go to another world, but then we try to break it down. It's like, well, do they get to come back? Do they have to stay there? Like, why is it a different world? Because, like a problem with what I feel with a lot of isekais nowadays is, like, oh, to go into this other world, you have to die, but they don't really explore, like, the death mechanic. Like, Konosuba kind of does to an extent, where it's like, he dies, like, or like, Kazuma dies in, like, the real world once because he thought he was gonna get hit by a tractor, but he didn't. But, like, he gets reincarnated into this other world, yet he keeps dying there in that other world, and he gets revived back. So it's like, that kind of explores that a little bit, and I'm like, I wish there were more things that explore that whole death aspect if they were gonna die for the first isekai. But then you have like your Digimons and your other things. And sorry, go ahead. I keep interrupting you.
No, it's fine. I encourage you to interrupt me a lot more than you because you're very nice and just like immediately stop so I can speak. But seeing this as a podcast, let's just flow. But the whole thing. What was it that you called the truck in Isekai? Was it Truck-kun?
It was oh yes, it's our favorite fan in almost every isekai. It's Truck-chan.
Truck-chan. And is that because like it's such a running theme that the protagonist gets killed by a truck and is thus sent to the other world?
Yes, because like it's weird because like a lot of that's just the thing. A lot of isekais when they want a character to die and go to another world, it's like, oh, they just get run over by a truck. And they got like brought into like another fucking world because of it. Because who's gonna survive being hit by a truck nowadays? But it's like, God, like we were talking about this in the Webcast Relief server the other day. Of like, what if you just had an anime where you're just the perspective of Truck-chan and you're just constantly running over these kids, sending them to other worlds.
And you make Truck-chan like a tragic hero?
Basically, yeah.
I must send people... No, Truck-chan comes from the other world and has to send brave warriors to that world by killing them. We need champions to fight in my world, so we're running them over.
Oh, according to Gunnar Cooper in the chat, there is one like that called the manga of Truck-chan.
Oh my god, I need to check that out. Okay, but Alice brought up a great point, which is that so isekai translated just means another world, which is where the whole like genre kind of stems from, which is the whole idea that you as a person from quote unquote the real world are brought into this alien world, this different place. And so the question then becomes, is Space Jam an isekai?
You know what? Yes, I would say that because of the whole alien aspect and the cartoons coming into our world. We are the mantle for the isekai for the Looney Tunes in that situation. Which is also, like, a really flipped way to think about it. It's still really cool. But, like, it's funny, because you can apply isekai to almost anything if you think hard enough. You can probably put the entire, like, science fiction genre that goes from one planet to another as an isekai, because you're literally going to another world. Is Who Framed Roger Rabbit an isekai? Yes, it is!
I don't I know that movie, but I don't recall like the individual story beats. Is the detective brought into that world, or isn't he like existing in that at the beginning?
He like they're like in the beginning, they're like in the real world, but he does get brought into the Toon World towards the end of the movie.
So the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, The Last Action Hero, where the kid gets brought into the movie world with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Have you seen that one? It's an old action classic.
Yes. I haven't seen that in years, but I remember it, and that does count as an isekai because he's going into the movie world.
That is an isekai, okay.
Like, yeah.
But like, okay, so just to go behind the curtain, the reason why we're having this discussion is because like there was a pretty heated argument in the Webcast Relief Discord about this very topic, and one of the points that was being brought up was that whether or not Sword Art Online is an isekai. And the person who I'm gonna keep anonymous, I don't know if they want to be put on blast like this, but they had the opinion that it's not, because they're only trapped in the isekai for a season, and they don't die. Their bodies are actually still in the real world, and so then the question then becomes like, well, why is it not? Because like their consciousness is still in the game. Like the whole story takes place in this world of the game, and they're trapped in there. So it then becomes like, are you disqualified for being an isekai if it's only your consciousness that is brought in there, and if you are allowed to leave that world at any point? And it's also like, because they apparently, I never watched season 2, but I can understand that in that one they go into a different game, but they're like free to leave or whatever, and then it becomes, do you have to be trapped there, or can you come and go as you please for it to be an isekai, or like what is your stance on it?
I feel like they're like, okay, so game VR isekais are actually like are not a uncommon thing. I would if you want, you can totally like make them their own genre of isekai, because the story takes place in another world. There's no like two ways about it. Even if you're in the real world and you have like a little side plot, like, oh, I need to become more confident in myself, and maybe I get to have this girlfriend in the real world. But to get that confidence, I have to go into this game world and find out who my real self is. Like, from a narrative standpoint, it's an isekai. Like, no shit about it. Yeah. Tron is totally an isekai. Wreck-It Ralph? Okay, that one gives me pause, because, like, the story takes place entirely in Wreck-It World's video game, in the arcade world, and there is like a real life world, but like they never really intersect.
No, like, but then again, Ralph does jump from one video game into the other.
See, I never really considered that like different worlds, because it's more like you're like in, like, the way they framed it, it was like one room in like a different like a building. Like, there's different departments and shit. That's the way I thought of it.
So it's not a different world, it's more like a different location in that world.
Exactly.
Okay.
And like, and there are two worlds, but they don't like intersect. Like, it's like fuck. I'm trying to think, because I feel like the one thing that had to be an isekai is that you have to go from one world to the other. You can have two worlds happening and coexisting, but if they don't like intersect, then like if you don't have one person going to the other, then it's not an isekai. Have you ever heard of the manga called Please Have a Meal? It's kind of like a video game isekai, but has an interesting premise. I have not heard of it. Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty is like the most isekai of all isekais, because they're going to not only worlds but universes. There's actually a whole subplot from, I believe, like the second season, where like the original Morty from this universe got so fucked up and Cronenbergian, they had to go to another world and just live out the rest of their lives.
Okay. Shadowbringers, like Final Fantasy 14, Shadowbringers, absolutely an isekai. I could take that one because like most of it takes place in literally a different world. So yeah. But I have another one. Doctor Who, is that an isekai?
Okay, I know Gunnar Cooper watched Doctor Who a lot. I'm going to say yes, but I want their input on this.
Well, that's their problem.
Fair enough.
I believe it is an isekai because like you can say time travel is a form of going to another world because like the world of Denmark like 300 years ago was not the same. The world of Denmark. The fantasy, the completely fantasy world of Denmark 300 years ago is not the same as the fantasy world of Denmark now.
No, it wasn't. But yeah, so I definitely feel that I hate to be the one to kind of like finish this topic off because I feel like me concluding it as the way that I interpret it as is just like another jab at this whole discussion that was had. But I think that the conclusion that I at least am getting to is that isekai is like not as narrow and specific as some people might like bring it out to be. Like for it to be like you have to die to get there, you have to be physically transported there 100%, and you have to be locked in there. It's like for those elements to be part of it, for it to be qualified as an isekai, I think is a little weird because like you can look at, for example, the Resident Evil movies. Yeah. Like the first one was a little scary, but then after that they just like turned it completely into action. But there's still zombies and monsters and something, and thus I feel that it's perfectly fine if you want to qualify this as like a horror movie, even though like there's not necessarily anything scary about it anymore. I feel like once we start adding all these weird stipulations to certain things, it becomes really like unnecessary hard to talk about things. Like I brought up this example to another friend when we're talking about this. Like, do you take the most recent Adam Sandler movies and not qualify them as comedy just because they're not funny anymore? Like. Like that's how weird it becomes. Where it's like it's not funny, no, but they're trying to make it funny. Yeah, but it's not funny. Then like, it's such a weird stance to take, if you ask me. Where it's like you have to have all these rules and criteria it has to live up to before it is this one thing.
I generally agree with you on that one because like I have never been a fan of hard and fast rules because It's just very stupid. It's very closed and narrow-minded. It's very, like, inflexible. Because then you put yourself in a situation where you have a whole multitude of stories that don't fit anywhere. Because not everything's going to fit on all this, every single rule. What you want to do is, like, when you put in these labels, it just fucking doesn't work. It's kind of like what we talked about, like, a long time ago, where, like, animation is not like a genre, it's a style. And anime is not like I guess like anime is a genre, but at the same time you can also broaden that to like include like everything is anime. Is fucking Avatar an anime? Is fucking cat dog an anime? I mean, if you want to put down the nitty gritty, yeah, they are. They all fit the qualifications. So it's like when you try to dissect every single down layers to the core of one, and you just arbitrarily decide what is or what isn't, it is just you're just doing everyone in disservice, and you're just making yourself look like a pompous asshole.
Pompous asshole.
Asshole.
I'm glad we agree on that point at least.
I wanted to like there's like I can like extend this topic of isekai so far, like with the justified genocide trope that I just recently found out about most isekais, but we're not gonna get into that today. Well, maybe for another day. But we have other topics we can get to.
No. You might want to fucking elaborate on justified. What do you call it? Genocide. You might want to elaborate on that one.
Oh. Okay, fine. If you insist.
That's not one that you leave up to fucking...
Okay. So, there's no secret that a lot of isekai tropes are very self-indulgent. But I feel like there's a very specific trend that I'm just noticing. There are two isekai that come to mind specifically. There's probably a lot more, but like the two that come to mind are Rising of the Shield Hero and That Time I Was Reincarnated as a Slime. The first one, Rising of the Shield Hero, is very bleak because like at first the character comes in and like he has a pretty good time. Until, like, he gets framed for, like, a rape or, like, a sexual harassment because, like, we don't find this out till later, but everyone there really fucking hates the shield hero, and the king is a dick, and he doesn't have all this power, and like, his daughter's a dick, and it's all this kind of fucky stuff. But basically, it's just, you just spent so much time with the story just kicking the main hero down until the moment where, like... he just comes up and has all these super badass shit, and you feel justified in him being like an asshole, and like he does some kind of fucky stuff himself, but he always tries to keep himself to a high moral standard because he kind of ended up as like the dad of the party, but like you can tell he's like when everyone sees him as a devil, you kind of want him to just be like, you know, nobody in this world is worth saving. If you want to totally be a bad person and kill everybody, that's fine by us. And that's like what the audience is saying. Because like you kind of like kick someone down so hard, you want him to turn into this villain. But obviously he doesn't. He stays the path and he stays a good person the whole time. And that's also cathartic. And it's like that one example where he doesn't fall into genocide, but like if he were going to, you wouldn't really say no, that's a bad thing because everyone here sucks. The example where the justified genocide actually happens is That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. And to give you like an example of that, this guy doesn't. Oh, by the way, Shield Hero got summoned. Slime was the one where the guy actually died.
Okay.
The anime, like I only seen the anime, but like the guy like starts off and he like gets just stabbed in the middle of the street, and his last words were, "Please delete my hard drive," which was funny as all hell.
What a legend.
What a fucking man. And I don't think they show this in the manga, but in the end of the anime, we do see like the guy he told it to like throwing his hard drive into a bathtub and then saluting it. So I think that was a good touch. But
even more legend.
But anyway, our little slime buddy Rimuru, basically, you see him like starting off, and it's like a really happy, cozy anime for like the first part of it. And like you start off him being like a blind little slime, he's useless and shit. But then you see him like, you know, take in abilities, be really cool, and like slowly build up not only just a family, but he ends up like creating his own little nation. But then, like, he gets so big, like, a bigger kingdom is like, wow, he's fucking up our trade routes. Let's fucking kill them, 'cause fuck monsters. So they go to this whole elaborate ruse where they keep Rimuru away from his kingdom. They put like an anti-magic and an anti-monster barrier around his whole city, and you kind of see like women and children being slaughtered, like, well, they're like goblins, but like by this like a really super like bitch of a kingdom touting around the flags like, oh, we're the good guys, we're slaying the evil monsters. And like you spend like a whole couple seasons being really nice and cozy with all these characters, and they're all just fucking dead now. So they do this Deus Ex Machina things. Oh, there's a way to bring everyone who was killed back. You just have to become a demon lord. And the way to do that is like, oh, you just need to kill like 100,000 people. No, it was 10,000 people. And he's like, okay, so then there's an army coming along. How many? 12,000. Oh, thank God, it's just enough. So we have this like whole scene. I can't believe I sold you on this slime anime. So we have like this whole 2 episodes, which I swear to God, like if you spend all the time, because I was just watching this because I just wanted to enjoy thank you for the correct me on the numbers. You just spend a couple seasons for like, it's the dumb, self-indulgent, cozy anime, and then you see all your friends get killed, and it's like, okay, fuck all y'all. And then you just watch the next 2 episodes, watching everyone who slaughtered those characters get annihilated. Like Ryumu just comes down from the sky and just blows out the brains of every soldier who was there, and then gets a skill to just auto-kill everybody. And I'm like, okay. And supposedly in like the light novel and the manga, this keeps happening. Where it's like, I just want a nice comfy town. Why are you guys trying to fuck with me? Do you want to find out? And I feel like this isn't a thing that's stuck in those 2. I feel like a lot of isekai go down this path where like it starts out really cozy and self-indulgent, but then something horrible happens to make you feel so bad for the main protagonist, where it like you feel justified if they want to just, go ape shit.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's like a very common trope now, which is why I call the trope justified genocide.
I'm glad you circle all the way back to that. So like on the topic about Shield Hero, I saw that there was a lot of talk about that one, like a lot of drama and I failed to come up with the other word for it, but like basically a lot of people were talking about it because like it was dealing with some very like sensitive things. Do you remember what those things were? Or
it was about the it was literally just because he got framed for a rape.
Okay.
So the way it goes down, I think it's like a lot harsher in like the manga or the light novel, but like in the anime, they basically alluded to the idea because I want to stress that the princess lady, the king's daughter's a fucking bitch. Like really, she is a cunt. But like essentially, the Shield Hero comes in. And it, like, the whole controversy started because, like, she hates the Shield Hero. So, like, she basically frames him for sexually assaulting him, and nobody believes him because it's the princess's word against, like, this outsider.
This commoner.
So, like, not even commoner. Like, this is, like, if we're gonna, like, boil it down, like, he's basically an immigrant. Because, like, this is a guy who was summoned from another world, against his own will, but might I add. So basically, it's like you're taking this like foreigner who has no say, no power, no connections, and like this wealthy white lady's out here like assaulting him for rape, and it's like basically this guy gets shunned and shat on for everybody for like 3/4 of a season. Even when he has his name cleared, even when he does the good shit, you see he doesn't get the respect he deserves. But like the first episode sparked controversy specifically because of that whole rape allegation thing, because it basically showed that like when you have the context, it shouldn't make sense, but it's the whole they talked about, oh, this person lied about a rape, and because even though the word was not used, the fact that the actions were implied made it spark controversy. It's like the same thing with Goblin Slayer a couple years even before that. Where you had the fucking, goblin rape scene. And redo of a healer more recently. I don't know why they keep going back to the story. And I'm like, the way it was handled in Shield Hero, I'm more okay with, because, like, first off, he didn't even do anything. It was just allegations. Like, a false allegation. Fucking lies. But, like, again, when you have things with, like, the R word, it just... I know I've said it like a bunch of times, but I need to remember to put a better filter on. But like because of those things happen, because of things were alleged, because they were implied, like people are going to get up in arms about it because like it's such a very sensitive topic.
Yeah.
And when you just bring up that narrative where it's like, not only was it this thing, but now you're like bringing up the situation where like someone could lie about it, like no one wants to think about it, but that's also a thing that happens. It's just, not a lot of people want to talk about it and touch on it.
No.
But at the same time, it's like it's what I bring up for that whole justified genocide thing, where you just have something so freaking bad happen to a character that you want them to feel like if they were to just destroy everything and go sicko mode, then like you wouldn't feel bad about it. You know?
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
All right, so I learned a lot about anime today. What about Overlord? Alan in the chat
Overlord.
asked.
Okay, so you remember Club Penguin and how everyone got in together at like the last hours before the game shut down?
Yeah, I've heard about it. Yes.
Okay, so imagine you were in a VR helmet in Club Penguin, and
that is the scariest thing.
But then, like, as soon as like the game shuts down, you go to remove the helmet, but you realize your entire body got transported to Club Penguin.
Right. Okay. So, I think I'm gonna use this as a springboard into one of the topics that we had in mind, because I have the best segue you ever fucking heard.
All right.
So speaking about an area that is full to the brim with pedophiles, let's talk about Smash.
Oh boy. So I have not heard what happened recently, but what's...
I am so happy that you haven't, because that way I get to introduce this little nugget of fantastic bullshittery to you. So basically, there was a popular Smash player called Mars, Tyler Martin, who wrote on Twitter, I know it's top player privilege or whatever, but I would rather see MK Leo and Light, for example, rather than two dudes who are gonna go 0-2 and ask top players for pictures after they lose. And this comes as a result that the entry for this big popular fighting game tournament got opened, and some people didn't get to register before it was closed off. And so this dude basically wants, because I am a professional Smash player, I want there to be specific rules where we get early access to this entry, because people come to watch me and not Jimmy from the block, who just really likes fighting games. No, he comes to watch moi, and then they have the audacity to ask for a picture of me after I've just stomped them out. And this is, and so like this thing popped off, and everyone in the fighting game community was rightfully so just clowning on this guy. And because like the whole thing that makes the FGC so unique is that it's a bunch of people who just really care about this thing, and all the greatest heroes that you have seen have probably all been people that have started from the ground up, and you've been able to see them grow and grow and grow as they improved. So it's really cool to have these players who don't necessarily play on a high tournament level and see how they grow and become better. But because the Smash scene is so fucking weird, because the only top players you see are the exact same top players you always see. There's never any, big upsets or any like people coming in from who you haven't normally seen. People just want to see these. Oh well, at least Mars thinks that people only want to see these big like big tournament players, when in fact what we really want to see is like we want to see the new guys. We want to see the people who play characters that you don't normally see and stuff like that. So again, the entire FGC just fucking clowned on this, and everyone who defended it being like, this is why no one considers Smash a part of the FGC.
I'm sorry. So, like, the moment you were explaining how, like, he was getting clowned on, the first word that came to mind was, I remember, I can't remember what year they banned it at EVO, but, like, they made a very specific clause that mentions, like, we will not condone thuggery on the premises. I remember that. And the word, and the thing that just came to mind is, like, you know what? What happened to this guy is just basically justified thuggery.
I remember the year... that was it Capcom or something that came out and said we don't like approve of fuckery. I remember there were at least 2 people who showed up for like big top players who showed up for a tournament wearing shirts that said fuckery. It was just such a fucking like no one respected that because like that's where the fighting games are from. Fighting games are from the arcade where you could get shanked for being like a shitty player.
Yeah, but it's like I feel like that's the kind of like arrogance that you're just asking to get blown out everywhere because nobody likes that shit. Nobody. It doesn't matter if you're from Smash or anything. You talk that shit, you go and get hit. Yeah. But I'm like, of Smash of all things, bro, like, you know, I get it. I want to understand it. I want to, like, just let people have their own fucking fun with this game. Yeah. I don't care. And I have a lot of friends who are really into the Smash community. And I'm like, you know what? Do your own fucking thing. Just don't put your willy in a child. But fucking... the least you can do is not be a complete dick about it. You could just be like, you know, sportsmanship and stuff. People love that stuff.
Yeah. I like how... I don't think there's any other, like... game per se where you have to be so adamant in describing I condone this community but not the fiddling with kids one. Like you know when you have a community where you have to describe I like this but not the child diddling thing, then you know you have a shitty community.
Furries, anime,
made in abyss.
You can probably expand it to like the fucking. You know, I'm not even gonna go there.
No.
No. But yeah, no. If you broaden out a community with like large enough, you're always going to attract like the worst people. The bigger something is, the worse it's going to be. That's just how I treat all fandoms nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like if you're going to be shitting and splitting hairs on fandoms, like they're going to be bad all the way.
Yeah,
I never want to say anything like that just because this game exists that it's going to inherently bring horrible people, because that's just an unfair thing to say about any fucking game.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because it's the same fucking shit we heard in America. I don't know if this was a thing in Denmark, but like in America we grew up on like basically, like, you know, Pokemon was the devil. Mortal Kombat is satanic, and like just this whole hysteria around like just because a piece of art exists, it automatically will create a bad thing. I will say that like the worst parts of Smash get really fucking bad.
Yeah,
I would still never say like Smash doesn't deserve to exist as a video game.
No,
but, like,
no.
But it's like, when you have these kinds of people being like so goddamn arrogant about this shit, it's like you don't have to. You're just you're the reason why everyone gets clowned on. You deserve this shit happening to you, bro.
Yeah. It's so like I absolutely agree that every like no like big community or whatever the fuck should ever be lambasted just because like a few bad apples or something. I just feel that, and this is not me justifying anything or whatever. It is literally just a tangent, but I think it's just interesting that there was this whole part where I think it was last year or maybe the year before that, but there was a point where a a lot of people came out with a lot of sexual allegations, like, oh, this person touched me or something. And I don't know what the fuck happened, but everyone just like came out and threw shade at a bunch of people. And you had things in the Rainbow Six Siege community, you had in the Street Fighter community, you had StarCraft and all this stuff. But then you had Smash, and there was like I think there is no less than 100 confirmed cases. And it's like when you have over 100 confirmed cases, then I don't think that, like, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I don't think there's anything wrong in saying there's something wrong with this community. Like, when there is so many with such a, like, serious crime, I think, like, I can understand why people are willing to narrow it down to just say this community.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Again, I don't necessarily agree with it, but...
No, yeah, like, I think that came out with, like, the Smash allegations, because, just briefly touched upon this and listened to, like, the Super Ben's Friendcast as it was unfolding. Like, the way it boiled down to, it was just a bunch of people taking, like people and kids to, like fancy after parties at, like, mansions and shit.
Yeah.
And it's a thing about these fucking parties where everyone's just like vulnerable because oh, you have the people who just want the picture, just want to hang out and feel cool, and they're put like in a very vulnerable position. It's less grabbing kids and bringing them into vans and more like giving them the mentality of like, oh, this guy's really cool. Oh, I want to be in the in crowd. I want to be cool to them. So it's like they'll do anything. It is a very... I feel like Smash especially is in that position where you have chuckle fucks. Like, I'm not saying this guy's a pedophile. He might or might not be. I don't know who he is.
No, of course.
But, like, you have that mentality where you have that, like, you feel like you're a prima donna. You feel like you're entitled to this kind of thing. And that kind of entitlement is just sickening because you feel this entitlement over others and then just leads down to a very bad road.
Yeah.
Oh, I could talk about an hour about somebody who was super entitled, but let's try not to be too negative on the podcast. Let's get this out of the way in the beginning, because we get our justified pedophilia, rape allegations, and like pedo out of our system, so we can talk about the other things we can talk about.
Yeah. I just thought this was a very fun segue from what you were talking about before, because I was actually going to ask, so that's a topic that we can shut off. So I was actually going to ask you, hey Cloudy, what have you been up to this week?
Well, you see, every Tuesday I play Dungeons & Dragons with my wonderful DM who's in the chat right now. And we stream on Twitch from 2 p.m. Eastern Time until whenever it's done. But mostly I was just playing Dungeons & Dragons. And I promised her I would chill. But while I was doing that, I also watched a couple episodes of the anime you have on stream, Yasuke.
All right, before we fucked this up real bad, but I did warn people that it was going to go this way. First of all, hi, Cloudy. Hi. Who the fuck are you?
Oh, I completely misread that transition.
No. Like I realized it while you were talking, which is like, I know who you are. People who are very much into the Webcast Relief know who you are, but I don't, like, people who are just like casual viewers of the Webcast Relief don't necessarily know who you are.
Oh,
so who are you?
Oh, hi everybody. I'm Cloudy Days. I'm one of the moderators in Riiser server. I appear a lot during streams in like the Jello Cartello chat, recently when we do like charity streams, and I'm just here to like either keep order, to talk about funny shit, and to come up with really weird, and basically to shill for Riiser and for Anarchy Dreamers, and now for our D&D campaign.
Perfect. All right,
Yes.
sorry, just had to get it out of the way because I realized that not everyone necessarily knew who you were.
It's
Not every transition is going to be a hit, guys. Thank you, Henry.
it's fine.
You
Don't
dick.
worry, we'll learn as we go. I think that's just a thing where it's like, I remember we stopped doing like introductions like every hour during Cartella streams, and then stopped doing introductions altogether because we just assumed people would know who we are. But now we realize, wait, this is a podcast. Maybe introductions are important.
Yeah, it is a new segment, so it's important that everyone is like brought up to speed. And I'm Riiser, I host the Webcomic Relief. There you go. But yeah, perfect. You watched Yasuke, and I too watched Yasuke.
I watched 2 episodes of Yasuke.
I think I watched 3.
I probably could have watched more. I'm still gonna finish the series just because I feel... Because, like, I never like watching a series and dropping it. I always like seeing it to the end.
That's fair.
But, like, even there, like, there are some problems with this series.
So, do you or should I explain what happens in the first episode?
I'll let you take the floor on this one.
Okay. So, for those of you who do not know who Yasuke is actually a real person, allegedly. He was the first, last, and only black samurai. Apparently, from what I can understand, he was a man from the Netherlands came to Japan, a merchant came to Japan, and who had Yasuke as a slave. And then Nobunaga, or one of the Nobunaga's like men, and Nobunaga is like the big was at the time the big demon emperor of Japan, came across Yasuke and was like, "What in the fuck is this?" And was like very much like, "Why is he black? What the fuck is this? Is this soot?" And they like asked for the man to get cleaned or whatever, and like, no, it doesn't come off. Like, what the fuck? Hey, bro, who's you? And Yasuke is like, "Oh, I am," and then his, I think it was African name, like a long name that I can't recall. And I'm from the Yabudori tribe, something starting with Ya. And then obviously Nobunaga is like, "I don't know what the fuck this man just say to me, but Yasuke, I can pronounce that." And so he dubbed the man Yasuke, and he actually ended up buying Yasuke, and Yasuke ended up being Nobunaga's envoy and would serve alongside him as Nobunaga continued to try and take over most of Japan with the intent of unifying it. And so there's a lot of mystery surrounding Yasuke, a lot of like unrecorded stuff about him. But essentially, when Nobunaga ended up taking his own life during the attack on his castle, there's a lot of ambiguity on what happened to Yasuke. Some people say that he died there. Some people said he fled. Whatever. And so, again, this is a real person. And so they announced that Netflix was going to have an anime out where they were going to show the life of Yasuke. And I was like very interested in this because an anime off of a real event and a person and someone who followed Nobunaga around was bound to be very interesting, very dramatic, and have a lot of like real life beats where you go, "Oh, so this was dead," and of course, because there was a lot of ambiguity about Yasuke, you could take a lot of creative liberties to explain the story. And so I sat down and I watched the first episode, and the thing about it is that it starts out with the attack on Nobunaga's castle, and it sets it up like, "Oh, this clan attacked this clan," and something. And if you're a big weeb like me and Cloudy, you probably sit there and go, "Oh yeah, that seems about right." And then it cuts away from the black screen with white text on it, and all of a sudden there's a battle mech, and there's necromancers and mages and magic spells and portals and sigils, and and you just sat there going, pardon, hello? And it's like, oh no, the dark army is attacking us, and it has like a fucking a carriage with like an evil hand reaching out, like, what the fuck is this? And so it ends up with Nobunaga taking his own life, as he was wont to do. And the way that Senpuku like this typically takes place is that they cut open their own stomach and then they have someone to chop off their head. And that one to chop off his head was Yasuke. And then there's a flash forward where Yasuke is now a boatman in a small little town where there's a chick who has magic powers, and the mom wants Yasuke to take this chick with the magic powers to a doctor in some other village, and it should be stated at this point. It says Kyoto 1861 or something. Like it brings up the exact place and the exact date of where we are. And so Yasuke eventually agrees, okay, I'm going to take this lady, this girl, to the doctor. But before that, there is a lady who shows up at a bar looking for this girl. And this lady is a big Russian lady with a mohawk who asks for vodka. And already there you go, I feel there's something wrong here. And then, as Yasuke is transporting this little girl, they get attacked by like this villainous group. One of them is a robot who has a brand logo on its chest. The other one is a femme fatale chick with a big scythe. The third one is this Russian big lady with a mohawk who's wearing a biker jacket and is, by the way, a werewolf. And
Werebear.
A werebear. Sorry, I didn't get my lore right. And the last one that confused me the most is a black warrior who is a stand user. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of questions in my mind because like this group goes, he's black. What? He's a black swordsman? What is this? And I'm like, hello? Excuse me? Hello? You have a black man right over there. And you have a fucking werebear. How the fuck are you surprised by a black man? You have a werebear. And so, like, once they start to, like, go at it and, like, oh, we're going to attack you now. Yasuke, and I watched the dub. I don't know, did you watch the dub or the sub?
I watched the dub.
Okay. And for some reason, he starts speaking in Japanese at this point. And he throws some fucking proverb about you will not find honor here, all you will find is pain and bloodshed. And the fucking black stand user goes, you speak Japanese, and you know the ancient proverbs. And I'm just sat, like, mouth agape, like, what the fuck do you mean he speaks Japanese? You're in Kyoto. You're in Kyoto in 1861. And it's like, and then they like, you speak the ancient proverbs, and it's like, first of all, it's 1861. How ancient can it be? And second, in the later episodes, you see Nobunaga saying it, and it's like 2 years before that, or whatever the fuck. And it's like, how in the fuck? And then later on, Yasuke fights a priest who has knuckle dusters with the god's word engraved on them. So that's the first episode of the hit series on Netflix, Yasuke.
So, yeah, that's basically right. That's basically what happens. I like LaShawn Thomas. He's had like really cool works on the Boondocks, and I think he did Legend of Korra, but I don't know if he was like an animator or a writer, but like he did the Boondocks. He did something with Korra. He did the Netflix show Cannon Busters, which was basically another cyborg-infested anime series, but this time it was in the Wild West. At least there, it was like dumb but really fun.
Oh, yeah. He worked on The Legend of Korra, Black Dynamite, The Boondocks, Children of Eva, Cannon Busters, and Yasuke.
Yeah, Yasuke is his latest project with Flying Lotus and I forget the other guy who was a writer. And I'm like, what gets under my skin about this is like it was advertised as like a historical piece, and then like the magic stuff comes out the window. They did a very important job with this, and I'm like, I think if you just wanted a really cool anime with like cool fight scenes and like have it be really like that like aesthetic and just have a black man at the center of it, like I wouldn't think twice about it. No. I wouldn't really have an issue because I'm like, yo, I'm here to watch this man beat the shit out of a frickin' bear woman.
Yeah.
But then like, from what I understand, like the story centers more around the little girl with magic powers and the Catholic Church than it does with Yasuke. And I'm like, I had a conversation with somebody who was annoyed with like the Catholic Church having a big part in Castlevania, even though they've always had a part. It's like they're fucking the church killed Dracula. That's like important to the lore, and even after the second season, they're not really brought up again, aside from like a cultist standpoint. But like here, it's like out of nowhere. Like, there were Catholics and Christians in Japan at the time. Supposedly, like after Nobunaga died and like Yasuke fled, the last time we was seen was he was captured by an enemy and taken to a Catholic temple because they didn't consider him as like Japanese. Supposedly, according to Wikipedia. But I'm like, were you here to tell the story of Yasuke, or were you here to tell the story of somebody and just have Yasuke be like there to advertise it?
Yeah,
and it's like this very, it's this very sour taste in your mouth. Like I'm going, like again, I've only seen the first 2 episodes, and I'm going to watch more because like I doubt I'm gonna get any like proper world building, or I doubt I'm gonna get like anything. I just want to see where they're going from this or why they wanted to make this. Supposedly, like to make this series for Yasuke, Flying Lotus and LaShawn Thomas had to go like take a trip to Japan, go to like the producers at MAPPA, and like essentially get their blessings to even start. So like it wasn't easy like to get this off the ground. Like the way they made this, they were like holding themselves with like respect. And like LaShawn Thomas is not one above like making like real gritty, not even just gritty, but like real like cutthroat stories about like not cutthroat. I'm using bad words, but basically like they're hard hitting. Like he made the Boondocks, I believe. Like he wrote for the Boondocks. He knows what it's like to like make really good black media.
Yeah.
Again, I'm like I want to point this out there right now. I am American. I am Puerto Rican. I'm probably like the last person who should be talking about this. Like probably Lasse a little less so because he's from Denmark and probably doesn't know. Well, no, you know, but because we don't fucking stop talking about it. But it's like we're probably in no way to be like arbiters of what is good or bad black media.
No, of course not.
But like. You feel like we should have gotten better.
Yeah.
Like, because, like, I wanted to see, because I was interested about Yasuke, like the one they talked about, I've never heard about this before, and it made me want to do a little bit of research, and I do want to learn more about the real story of Yasuke. I'm actually more interested in what really happened than I am in seeing this show.
Yeah.
So, like, if the job was just to like get the name out there and like you know put it more to the world consciousness, be like, oh, he's a real man. Oh, we'll find out. Then I think he did an okay job. Yeah. It's one of those no bad press, like all like even bad press is
press.
still good press. Thank you. All press is good press. Thank you. I fucked up the...
It's fine.
But yeah, it's that kind of situation in the way I can see it. But I'm like, if you look at the story for what it is, if Yasuke wasn't there, this would be... this would still be a bad series, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's not very like engaging or anything, because like it feels like you've seen a lot of it before, and it feels like it's just yanking a lot of stuff out of the ether. Like you haven't gotten to this point yet, but it's like, oh, this guy was actually a mutant who could turn into a demon or whatever the fuck. Is this like, this has not been brought up before? Where the fuck is all these things coming from? What? Like, I'm all for having like a world where there's like all these weird, unique magic and sci-fi things and all that shit. It was brought up in the chat, but like Afro Samurai. I fucking love me some Afro Samurai. I think like the world is really interesting just because it's so unique and different, and it brings in all these different medias and something. But I just feel that in Afro Samurai, it's a lot more about like the spectacle of Afro fighting all these things than it is, and then like you actually have a very, very interesting world that this just happens to take place in, but the story can still like function without it. But in Yasuke, it feels like it sets it up as in Kyoto, Japan, and by the way, I got the time frame wrong. It's 1579. So it like they set up like it's in our world, and then you have all these magic things going on, and the entire reason why the story of Yasuke is so interesting is because he's the only black samurai that was ever in the world. And then the show just goes on to be like, but we're gonna put so much in the world that is way more fantastical and way more out there than a black samurai. And it just like takes away all the attention from what should be the main thing, which is here is a guy who was just the fucking beast in Japan at the time.
I believe there's also like a point to where like his one friend there was a female samurai. And I think historically, I don't think there even were female samurais to begin with. I think that's like there's like a whole culture thing around it where like women could not be, no matter how good they were with a sword.
No.
So I feel like already you have that, like where like a black man and a Japanese woman were both in the samurai caste, and it's just you could have explored that. Here's my thing. I really enjoy the scenes where they're flashing back to Yasuke's like history.
Yeah.
Where he like when he first encounters Nobunaga, and they like try to wash the ink off his skin, and they can't because of black skin. And then like the camaraderie he has with the female samurai, and like, you know, everyone looks down to him because like they consider him a slave, and it's like, oh, servants must always be servants. And I'm like, if that was the whole show, I would have been way happier with it, because it's a lot more. You feel more connected to Yasuke in his flashbacks than you do now. He's just like, it's weird. Like I keep thinking back to this, but like you know how Luke Skywalker was portrayed in the Star Wars thing. It's like we're meeting Yasuke for the first time, and we're seeing old Luke at the exact same time.
Yeah,
happening concurrently in the show, and I'm like, I know how we got there because we saw that in the first scene of the first episode. But I'm like, damn, look what we missed out on.
Yeah.
Go on. The last thing I just want to say, in the second episode, we see Yasuke fighting a whole bunch of like samurais who were so set with the old ways, and he slaughters them and prays for them. And like we see like the general guy Mitsuhara, I think, was like, oh, there's no honor in this because the black man killed them. And I'm like, first off, fuck you. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to be a racist old like man. That's fine. Whatever. You're gonna get your ass beat. You're probably the main villain. I don't care. But I'm like, we saw Yasuke do a really cool thing, and I'm like in the first two episodes, in like the flash forward, we're basically just watching Yasuke get his ass handed to him by all these superpowered freaks, and I'm like, there's like a disconnect here, bro. I want to enjoy this. I really do. Yeah. Like, I'm enjoying all like the flashbacks, but like nothing in the flash forward where the main story is taking place.
And we talked about this like before. It's like you can't not have had enough like material to make a story about Yasuke. Again, like I said before, I was so fucking down for having a story about Yasuke that followed the recorded information about him and then obviously take some liberties to make it more anime or interesting or something. Because I'm sure that man did not necessarily fight 50 times or whatever the fuck, but you can throw in a few extra fights just to spice it up and without like having it had like that much agency just to keep people like interested or something. I do not feel you had to take this sci-fi fantasy route with it. Like,
you could have done a thing where like the most fantastical thing was like he fought 50 people at once and won. And you know, I would have, even though that's not like, that's like to the height of fancy, I would have been hype with. Like, you know, you could have had fancy sword techniques. You could have even had like special magical effects, just have them be like implied and not like actual thing. But like,
you use some anime visuals to make it look more grand than it actually is.
But no, like the magic actually is such an integral part, and Yasuke's just there.
Yeah. Like, he's front and center on the cover, but the chick that he's protecting is, like, she's also there, and she should be the one on the cover.
Yeah, because, like, the story focuses around her.
And and she's not even that good of a character, no well-designed. She looks like someone tried to draw Pearl from Phoenix Wright and failed miserably.
They forgot the top knot is all. But yeah, no, that's basically the thing. Like, we talked about, like, watching Yasuke before we started the podcast, and we wanted to talk about how it relates to writing and how you could have improved it better. I'll let you have the floor on that one.
Well, it's basically what I said. I definitely feel that you could tell Yasuke's story and focus primarily on, like, the real stuff and maybe even through that tell the story of Nobunaga seen from the perspective of one of his envoys instead of necessarily taking the exact same story about Nobunaga that everyone has seen before. And you could focus more on Yasuke and his feelings of being treated like a slave and working his way up through the ranks and becoming like a general for one of the greatest warlords Japan has ever seen. Like, there are definitely like stuff here that you can work with, and it just feels like such a. In Denmark, we have a word for it where you basically admit defeat. It's called a falliterklæring, where you just you just drop all like. Work and all effort you can do and just reach for like the easiest thing. And it feels like here they could have done this really grounded, very historically accurate story, but instead you figured no one's interested in that, so let's just add werebears and femme fatales with scythes and stand users.
Like, I think, like, one of the major complaints I see, or, like, one of the major comments I see for people who even like Yasuke, it's like, hey, if you liked it or enjoy it, please read up on who Yasuke actually was.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people on Twitter especially who are trying to, like, guide people into, like, seeing these museums where they're hosting Yasuke's armor. Or, like, trying to find books on Yasuke. Like, if you read up on him, you're gonna have, like, a more inviting time. Like, you're gonna have a more enjoyable time, like, reading up and learning about Yasuke, like, who he was historically, than you are going to be watching from the show.
Yeah.
And I feel that's a real shame, because I'm like, you can tell there is passion going into this project.
Absolutely. I'm not even trying to say that. Like, the fights are very well choreographed. It's very well animated, but then again, from what I can understand, Mappa is just really good at that shit. So, like, there's definitely, like, there's quality in here, but it just feels like it's such a missed opportunity.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's what it is at the end of the day. It's just, like chat says, it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah. But speaking of Mappa, they can have their redemption arc soon, hopefully. Because they have announced the Chainsaw Man anime. And I don't know, Claudia, have you read Chainsaw Man?
Okay, so here's the thing. Raj has been like kicking my ass for weeks to get me to read Chainsaw Man, and I want to, and I keep holding off on it because I'm a lazy piece of shit. But from what I understand, it is a phenomenal anime, and I've seen the trailer. God, is it good? Like, I don't think we can. I don't think we should be. We should share it because, like, I feel like we're gonna get.
Are we gonna get in trouble?
We might get in trouble for it. Okay. Yeah.
I'll just like click through it so people can see stills.
Yeah. But that's more legally distinct.
But it definitely looks like it. So the thing about Chainsaw Man is that it does something that a lot of. So the reason why it's so interesting is because that it feels like a lot of the fiction that you see today is kind of like some inspiration was taken from somewhere. Like sometimes you can see, oh, this is like this wouldn't have existed if this thing hadn't existed. Like you can always like kind of trace an idea back to some place, and it feels like what's his name, Fujimoto, the guy who made Chainsaw Man. It feels like like that dude has never seen an anime or movie or game or read a story before, but still knows how to tell that story. So there's like weird effects where the most like loved one is the one where one of the characters, the guy here with the top knot, for those of you who are watching the stream, he has a nail, and if he stabs you 3 times with it, then you die. Like a demon comes and kills you. That's basically what it is. And so when he uses it, he holds it up, and then it's just basically a freeze frame where he holds it up, and you see a demonic finger from outside of frame, like you see it like overlapping the framing, and voice bubbles and everything comes in and like flicks the back of the sword, and then the next frame it like shoots forward, and it's like. That is such a fucking cool effect, because I brought it up in the Webcast Relief with something like Unsounded or something, where it's like it has ghosts outside of the border or something. It makes it feel otherworldly and stuff. And it does this constantly with unique and different ways of conveying information, and the story is so creative and different from everything else you've seen that I am very excited to see not just like people being exposed to this story, because it is a fucked up story, but it never tries to be anything other than that, but also just to see how they're going to make these very unique and like not anime friendly scenes. Like, how are you gonna make an otherworldly finger come in and flick a sword and give it the same outer-world feeling as it has in the manga, for example?
I mean, like, the way you can probably do that is by, like, proper framing and staging. But aside from, like, the mechanical aspect, I'm, like, the one thing I do know about Chainsaw Man is, like, the way the guy draws depictions of hell. And I think you know the panel I'm, like, alluding to.
With the doors.
Like, with the doors. Well, that's one of them. The other one was, like, the astronauts. And
the astronauts.
Yeah. That fucking shit. Like, the way this thing is drawn, like I literally only see stills of it, and it's some of like it's some of like the best drawn things I've ever seen, where it's just beautifully detailed and just says a lot, and a lot of shit is happening, and it's insane. But like I really need to get into this series. It's been it's been at the forefront of my mind to read it. I'm just a really lazy reader, but like.
It's
the thing's
now.
Like an experience.
So they've announced that there's gonna be like an act 2 or something, and so like this story now is done. Like act 1 which is like 78 chapters or something. Like you can get through this in like a day or two. It doesn't really take that long. But yeah, like MAPPA are the ones who are going to be animating this, and from what I can understand, they made The God of High School, which isn't necessarily like a good credential from what I can understand. They made Dorohedoro and Jujutsu Kaisen and the final season of Attack on Titan. I haven't watched. I think I've watched some of Attack on Titan, the final season of that. But I watched Jujutsu Kaisen recently, and like they're fucking good at making these like dark and visually interesting scenes. But also the fight scenes are really fucking strong.
That's the thing with like Mappa. Although here's the thing, I found like a really dumb meme like before the podcast started, where like it showed like them. There was a scene. There's a SpongeBob clip of like Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob like as withered husks, and the caption was like Mappa after you have to realize they're animating Yasuke, Chainsaw Man, Jujutsu Kaisen, and Jujutsu Kaisen Movie 0, and Attack on Titan the final season, all in the span of a year.
Yeah,
all this shit got animated at the same time, and I'm like, oh.
There's definitely a thing, just to bring it back real quick to Jujutsu Kaisen. So, have you watched Jujutsu Kaisen or have any like knowledge about it?
I have knowledge about Jujutsu Kaisen, yes. I love it.
Okay. So, every time that it shows like demons and something, they're always done in this very, very unique art style. It's very different from everything else. And it just goes to show that they understand how to make stuff feel like it doesn't quite fit. And I think that is a perfect pick for Chainsaw Man. And I don't recall who it was, but basically the dude who is going to spearhead this anime came out and said, yeah, I know we got some big shoes to fill, but I'm confident that we'll be able to do it, and we're definitely going to do our hardest. So I think it's in good hands.
This is like a Madhouse X One Punch Man kind of like combination I can see. Yeah. Like Mappa is like going to be like a really good fit for this. I'm really excited for this.
Yeah. I don't really have a good segue into. I got one. So speaking of anime, a new game came out from a franchise that I know that you and I both really love. Disgaea 6, Defiance of Destiny, and I don't think that we're going to be talking that much about video games in this podcast. We're probably going to mention it a few times because again we're both epic gamers, bro. But I still felt like this was interesting to bring up just because like this new game is out and we both love Disgaea. But I also kind of like wanted to raise a more like interesting question, and that is like we see all these different kinds of media where they like bring attention to the fact that they are in a video game, what was it? I'm thinking of a really poor example, but in not Heavy Rain, Fahrenheit or Indigo Prophecy, depending on where you live. There's a point where the cop character goes, man, what is this? What am I, in a video game? And everyone just
rolls their eyes
and wants to die. But then you have Disgaea, which constantly references the fact that they're in a video game to the point where it is like, it's kind of weird, but in the same time, it's hilarious. And I was just like, why do you think like this guy can get away with it? Is it because that it like kind of sets up the tone that it's dumb, silly, goofy shit that it can get away with it? What do you think?
I think the fact that it doesn't like. I think we like Alice mentioned this to you when she first pitched Disgaea to you. And it's just like the story and the gameplay kind of have this inverse relationship where like the story gets a lot less serious from first game to the last one, but like the mechanics get even more fun to play the more like the later in the editions you go into the series. The fact that the game does not, like, the story-wise does not ever take itself seriously. Yeah, you're gonna have moments where there's, like, really hard-hitting story beats. You're gonna fucking care about, about Usalia having the whole, like, Curry backstory in Disgaea 5, and how sad that whole thing was. They make you give a shit about this dumb bunny girl in a giant, like, prinny plush, and why she only eats curry. And, like, it's such a stupid plot point out of context. And even in context, it's a stupid plot point. But you care regardless. Because you just enjoy these characters. You enjoy playing as them. You enjoy, like, going through these dumb worlds, grinding forever. It is insane to me. I think, like, this guy is, like, the epitome of what I believe makes a good, like, not only like a good story, but like a successful story, like a successful property. And it's like the characters in these stories, whichever game you like the best, they're gonna grip you, and they're gonna grip you hard because you get really attached to them for the dumbest of reasons.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like my favorite game of the series is Disgaea 2. And it's because, and when you bog it, and when you like bring it down, the story is like the most bog standard enemies to lovers like shown in anime trope. Yeah. But there's a lot of little details that work. How like there's like a specific mechanic in the game where if you were like when you're around characters, you do more damage and you're more likely to do combination attacks when standing next to each other. And like normally that it's defined by like how many times you're having the characters around each other. Except for the main two leads, Adele and Rosalind, where they start off with always 0 sync, and then as the story goes, the sync slowly gets higher until, like, at the end of the story, where whenever they're together, it's always 100% chance they're always in sync, they always do a combo move, and everything's fucking cool. And I'm like...
That sounds dope.
It is fucking dope, and it's so cute. I love it. And it's like... when you have characters that you can really attach to, and you have the game like just add on to that fact when it complements the story and that little aspect of the game of like the characters, it just fucking works. You actually brought this up in Disgaea 6 about how the reincarnation system's working because the main character's a zombie. I'll let you take over, but that's like another example of why the game itself complements the story and the characters, even though the story's fucking silly.
Yeah. So the thing about like you play as Zed, this guy here with the red hoodie, and he and he's a zombie. And so the game, from what I can understand, the game has always had like this thing where you can reincarnate and you get to keep certain stats or whatever. So like you basically start from the ground up, but a little stronger. And so they wanted to do that with Zed because he's a zombie. So the whole thing is that he keeps dying and coming back. And so normally in Disgaea games, when you wanted your character to get experience points, they had to be the one to kill an opponent. That's no longer the case. You can get experience points just for being in the map, and you can even get experience points if your character dies during the fight, which is also a thing that wasn't in the older games. But that is because that they want you to reincarnate Zed a lot of times and give him these buffs. So they make it so that he can more easily get experience points from being on the sideline. While other things take place. And so it's again one of those things where like the gameplay complements the story, and kind of like a roguelike, but it's not like if your character dies that you start from scratch. I thought that at first, but you have to purposely go and reincarnate them. But like So the question that I initially raised was just like how some games can get away with acknowledging the fact that they are a video game, and while other people other video games you kind of groan at it. And for example, again, like the whole, am I in a video game from Indigo Prophecy? And then you have like Metal Gear where it's like you can get a call from Colonel where he goes, press the circle button. And then you have, and so like, that kind of goes from like the point where you groan in Indigo Prophecy to with Metal Gear, where you can kind of go, yeah, okay, it's just to teach you a little bit. And then you have like at the complete other end of the spectrum, you have Disgaea, where it's like, Set in six here finds out that there's a dude who keeps reincarnating whether he wants to or not, and he's like a boss. So once you kick his ass, you're like, wait, he keeps coming back? That means I can grind him for easy XP. And so there's a cutscene where he just keeps killing this dude and getting like, and like the dialogue box pops up and like, Set got a ton of XP for that. And every time the dude comes back, he's like, haha, I have revived. And then it like slowly becomes, oh no, I haven't arrived. And he becomes more and more scared. And it's like, it's so weird that it understands the fact that there's grinding, there's experience points and all this stuff. Like, it is really like acknowledging that it's a video game, but somehow it just works in Disgaea. And I feel that, like, now that I'm saying it, maybe the reason why it works for Disgaea as much as it does is because the tone kind of primes you for, don't take this too seriously, just have fun with it.
Basically, yeah. It is a series just based around having a lot of fun. Yeah. Like when Colonel tells you to press the circle button, or like when Psycho Mantis checks your fucking memory card for fucking Crash Bandicoot or some shit. It's like those are like things that are meant to like shock and awe you, but you go back to normal pretty quickly. Yeah. They're just things that like. They're just quick jab and that's it. The way Indigo Prophecy does it, it's just such a throwaway line. It's like, it's just basically like a title drop. It's like, this is the Indigo Prophecy. Am I in a video game? And so it just feels so done without care, but when the entire story tries to take itself seriously, it's just out of place.
Yeah.
You can feel like whenever you make a callback to breaking the fourth law, there's either has to be a purpose or you have to be primed to expect that to happen a lot. Disgaea is that game where certainly, especially with the tone and the story and the setting, like nothing takes itself seriously. They acknowledge that they have to do like a whole bunch of fights, and it's just crazy. But it's fun, and you don't question it.
Absolutely.
There is actually another game that I'm thinking of. This is like a very obscure game. Has anyone in chat played Skies of Arcadia for the Dreamcast or the GameCube? It is like this. It's a Sega property where you basically play as like a bunch of like sky pirates. There's this Skies of Arcadia.
Oh. Just keep talking.
Yeah. Okay. So there's this one line in like the beginning of the story where you like see a giant freaking sky whale. And there's like a lot of options you can choose, and like where it's like, oh, we need to take evasive actions. Maybe if we keep going, he won't see us. And one of the options was, let's fight it. And I choose it, and it's hilarious because the guy starts getting scolded because it's like, what the hell are you gonna do? Do like 10,000 Cutlass Furies and fight him? And it's funny because like Cutlass Fury is like the main attack, like the big bombastic finishing move you get for that point of the story because you're still so weak in the beginning. But the fact they made reference to the actual attack name and like try to put in like a practical application just made me fucking laugh. And like the story is like that. Like the story overarching is kind of serious, but like you get these little dialogue moments where you get to choose, or they make references to they're in a video game or like video game mechanics. They're just so fun and funny. It's like even though you're serious, you can still take a step back and be like, okay, this is just a dumb video game, but I'm having fun.
That reminds me of in Metal Gear 4. So the thing about Metal Gear 4 is that you keep bumping into like a kind of culmination of different bosses that you fought in 1, 2, and 3. So like you have Laughing Raven, which is like the Fury from Metal Gear 3, and Vulcan Raven from Metal Gear 1. And at one point, you bump into Crying Mantis, which is obviously like using the same thing as Psycho Mantis from the first game. And so I fucking loved that bit because there's a point where you can't control Snake, and so obviously your brain goes to, what if I change my controller to the second player controller port? Because that was a way that you could fight Psychomantis in Metal Gear 1. And so if you do that, you get called up by Colonel and everyone else in your fucking call list, and they're all just calling you a dumb fucking idiot, going, what the fuck are you doing? Change it back. You can't control Snake if you got it in the other port, you dumb idiot. What are you doing, you dumb cunt? I fucking love that bit. But again, like, as you say, it like, Metal Gear, as weirdly serious as it sometimes is, like, it is a very poignant and very serious game at times. It also is not afraid of doing some goofy shit, and it kind of sprinkles that like around throughout the entire game. I feel that if you had like a like say Silent Hill 2, and you have someone go up to your character and go, oh, if you want to push this box, you need to push the action button. I don't think like that game could get away with it, because like it has set up its tone as, you need to take me as serious as fucking cancer.
Mm-hmm. Oh god. Like it all genuinely just comes down to tone. If you want to extend this to like not even just video games, but like writing for web comics or anime or stuff, if you want to make fourth wall breaks, if you want to reference the fact that the logic is kind of goofy, you need to prime your audience for that. Yeah. You can't just drop it in and expect just the joke to land. You've got to like do proper setup.
Yeah, absolutely. So, jumping from this talk about video games, we can talk about this other talk about video games, which is David Jaffe versus Pat Bowang.
Boyven.
Did you know that is actually his real name?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I fucking love that it's Boyven, just because like at one point Wooly calls him fuck Boyven.
Fuck Boyven.
So for those of you who are not in the know, Pat from the Super Best Friends, formerly from the Super Best Friends, now from Castle Super Beast, and Pat Stares At on Twitch and I think also YouTube, made a tweet a few days ago, because the video game creator Cliff Bleszinski, who made Gears of War and stuff like that, said that he was going to make a new studio where he was going to like make a new video game. And the problem with this is that when he had his former studio, Boss Key Studios, I think it was called, the company that made Radical Heights and what the fuck, Outlaws? It was like a weird Overwatch clone. Basically, that company went under, and Cliff would then go on to spread a huge amount of lies, one of which being that all of his employees, after the company went bankrupt, he said that he paid everyone out of pocket so that they had like 3 months of severance. And then one of his employees called him out on Twitter going, that's weird because you only paid us 3 weeks of severance. Ooh. And then Cliff folded like a house of cards going, oh, well, I like to believe I did the right thing. As like not even denying that he got fucking called out on lying. And there's definitely, like, obviously, the fact that he paid, like, just that he even did pay 3 weeks, I should probably phrase it like that, is, that's commendable. It's not enough, but if that was what you, like, the resources you had at hand, then, fair is fair. Good on you. But the fact that he then goes on to lie about it and stuff is a huge, like, because, like, Cliff is very, how do I put it? He's very up his own ass. He's very he's the dude who has once come out and said, I'm going to make another $1 billion IP. Like when he stopped when he came back after working on Gears of War, he said very cockily in an interview, I just felt like I wanted to come back and make another $1 million IP, which didn't come to pass. So he's very up his own ass, and so having like found out that there's all these things that he has said that was factually untrue and all this stuff, made it so that Pat, when he saw this tweet, went, I fucking hope that the people who sign up for this project save up some money or something so that they can like land on their feet once this company shuts down. Which is a very harsh comment to say, but that's Pat. He speaks very much in hyperbole, and you know, he's not a huge fan of Cliffy, and for that matter, neither am I. But then comes David Jaffe, and if the name David Jaffe kind of rings a bell for some of you guys, it's because he is one of the creators of God of War, the original trilogy, and Twisted Metal. Mm-hmm. And so he came out and he was not happy about what Pat was saying, and was like quote tweeting him and everything, and was like kind of like dragging him through the mud. And then Pat was found a screenshot of one of his videos where he goes, "Is this you?" And the title of the video is "Why Cyberpunk's Crunch? Why you should shut the fuck up about the crunch of Cyberpunk 2077 or something." Which is not a good stance to have, but and so like David goes, "Yes, that is me, but I will gladly debate this topic. Can I hop onto your podcast and we can have a debate about this?" And he basically turned into this debate me bro kind of persona that everyone fucking hates. And so Pat did not want any part of this. I was like, no, fuck you. And then he's like, oh, well, you can jump on my podcast and we can make it a charity thing, which Pat also agreed was like a little like shitty, because then it becomes like if he declines it now, then it sounds like he's not willing to encourage this charity. And so he fucking did a power move and just donated $400 to the charity and said, "Nah, and I'm not gonna invite you on my podcast because we have standards." What then followed was that David Jaffe very, very quickly threw up a stream on his YouTube channel where the title card said, "Let's us talk about this," and there was a big fucking picture of Pat's Twitter icon, which is fan art, and so I think it's only right to figure out who the creator of that is, so you can credit them. And the title of the stream was "Why is this guy so angry?" or something. And then he continued to talk about how like the point about complaining about crunch is like a misinformed like point to have, being that you should absolutely like crunch has been made into this villain that it really isn't, because if you want a good product, then you need to put the time in, is basically what he was saying. So he was basically saying that everyone who crunched in this game are the problem, which is not a good stance to have. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is not just because like both you and I, we're both fans of Castle Super Beast and the Super Best Friends, but also because like it is a part that affects me personally, because I have this master's degree in concept development. And a whole thing about concept development is that you have to learn how to run a project. To create a concept, you need to like manage it properly. And so what David Jaffe says is that, oh no, like if you want a good game, you have to put in this many hours in it. And so if you don't put this, like if you don't crunch, you're not gonna get a good game. And that's why we got good games such as Cyberpunk, which is arguably debatable, and Last of Us 2, again debatable, and then people bring up like, yeah, but the new Ratchet & Clank game didn't have crunch, and he's like, I refuse to believe that that they didn't crunch. And then it becomes like one of those things where it's like, how can you even like have a conversation if we're going to point to a thing that is an example of why you're wrong, and then you could just say, I don't believe that's true. Like, then we're not getting anywhere. But he's pointing at all these games saying that to get good games like this, you have to crunch. And I disagree vehemently, because one of the things that I have learned through my education is that it's not like everyone says it, and it has kind of become a meme, but it is unfortunately true, which is it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. If you can, like, there's several bottlenecks in a project where at some point, no matter how well you plan it, there's going to be a point where someone doing this pipeline is going to sit and be like, I'm waiting on the resources so I can continue with my work. For example, if you're working with a graphic designer, sometimes you need the graphics for that particular thing. There's been several times, and it's not meant to throw him under the bus, but there's been several times where a Webcast Relief episode has not come out because I was waiting on Hugo to finish the title card, which is fair because he definitely puts a lot of time and care into them, and they're fucking amazing. So that's perfectly fair. But that's kind of like the way that I see it, which is like, no matter how well you plan it, you're gonna run into these bottlenecks. But the better you are at planning it, the fewer of these bottlenecks you're gonna run into. And if you run into as few of these bottlenecks as possible, then you're not going to have to ask for your employees to crunch to finish a product, because you have managed you have set a scope for when you should be able to finish the project. You typically make what's called a brief, where you agree, this is the amount of money we need. This is when you should expect this part, this part, this part, this part, this part. Which is a thing I have heard that Nomura doesn't do, which is why all of his games are also fucking delayed. But not gonna open that can of worms. So I definitely believe that while David Jaffe also does this thing where unless you have actually worked in the video game industry, he does not want to hear your point, but he still invites people in for debate, and it's like, then why the fuck? And unless you can come up with a solution, then you're not allowed to complain about it, which I also disagree with. But to him, I will say, I'm not going to invite him on any podcast because I don't want to talk with him because he seems insufferable. But as a professional concept developer, I can say that you are factually wrong, and with proper management and proper planning, you can absolutely get around crunch and get a good product in the end. That's what I had to say. I don't know if you have anything to add.
I'm gonna be real with you. I was brought onto this podcast to be like, to play the Woolies advocate.
Yeah.
For when it comes to this kind of thing, but I'm like, nah. Like he is so wrong on this take. For him to die on this hill, to just like try to defend crunch and just try to have this high horse, especially the whole thing where he like taunted Pat, trying to put him in uncomfortable positions, like, oh, do it for charity. If you do, like, holding charity money hostage is already a scummy thing to do. But the fact he did that and, like, through that spiteful donation, started a wave of even more donations to the charity. He did more good shitting on this man than if he were to actually just go into and, like, boost up his podcast. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I think like his podcast raised or his stream raised like maybe $100, and I'm not gonna donation shame anyone. $100 is still $100. Kudos for that. But what was it? Pat got like $1,100 or something. It was a significant increase.
Yeah, but it's like, God, like at the end of the day, it's just like. Just the way like David Jaffe acted during this whole debacle was just kind of showed how much of a shitty person he was and how shitty his takes were. Yeah. I can understand like when you've gone through crunch so many times, like it's a weird point of the way I'm trying to describe it is like it's a point of pride where it's like they see it as a necessity because it's happened so long. but like it doesn't have to be like that. Like it's not wrong to want better. It's not wrong to want to change the status quo. That's what fucking progression is. But then you got like old farts like that who's like, oh, I suffered, everyone else has to suffer with me. And this goes back to this whole American mentality where we're like, oh, we don't want student loans because I have to pay student loans, so you have to pay them too.
That still baffles the fuck out of me.
Yeah. I know. I cry every time you tell me about Tim Harper. We'll have another stream about that. But it's like that whole thing where it's like I had to go through this shit. Everyone else should suffer too. Is such a really shitty mindset to have, because you go back and be like, oh, let's go help charity. You don't give a shit about the people you're giving money to. You're just using it to make yourself look good at the end of the day. And that's what this whole thing was about to David Jaff. He just wants to flaunt his own fucking ego.
Yeah, and you could definitely also see that when you like listen to his stream, because he like kept name dropping, like, I'm good friends with Cliffy B, and I'm good friends with John Carmack and all this stuff, and like, good for you. But he was also like doing a whole thing of like, I think I'm reasonable to talk with. I had a guy come in and we talked at length about the Gamergate, which is a topic I do not want to get into, but we talked at length about Gamergate, and then I was like, really now? And then I went to look up the video, and do you know what the fucking title of the fucking video is called?
Oh, what's it called?
Gamergator BTFO'd. I was like, I was so respectful to this guy. I was like, what? Then what the fuck is this title, you dumb shit? So
let's talk about this. Let's us.
Yeah. Let's us. But I think like this whole thing about like how to like, because there's definitely a thing with crunching. I'm a workaholic, and I several times had to be sat down and told not to work. And it doesn't work very well with the fact that I also can't feel when I'm hungry. So sometimes I forget dinner. But I definitely understand that there is this whole thing of you want to finish a project or something so much that you're willing to put in like your own time to finish a project. And that's definitely a thing that should be like commended and applauded, but it should never be expected. And so there's and sometimes you also hear about these companies that are going like, we never asked them to work overtime. But then I'm sure somewhere you can find someone saying something like, you don't have to work overtime, but we would really appreciate if you did. Like, you know, one of those where you kind of infer that there's going to be some bad shit if you don't follow suit. So basically, I think the takeaway from this is that if we are supposed to take something positive out of this and point it towards webcomics and creative endeavors, it should definitely be that have a system, plan what you want to do, plan what it is that your workflow should be, set up small little goals that you can accomplish. There's a model called SMART. You can look it up. But basically, it's that you make goals that are small, reachable. You check up whether or not you accomplish those goals. You make strategies for what you should do if you don't accomplish those goals and what the end product should be. And if you put in this with your creative endeavors, you can you will quickly realize, and I know this sounds very holy for someone who takes so long to come up with videos as me, but if you plan efficiently, you will realize just how little time you actually need to work on the things that you're actually working on. But when you're just like doing it off the cuff, like I know that a lot of creators are doing, then it's gonna take a long time because you're kind of like doing a little here, a little there. But if you just sit down and be like, we need this done within this time frame, otherwise this, if you set up like a structure like that, then I assure you that your project management, and this project in this case being your creative endeavors, is gonna be much smoother. So that was a little pro tip from me. But do you have something to add?
No, David Jaffe got dabbed on. Get bent.
Fucking dab. But speaking of crime, which crunch should be in my opinion. But speaking of crime, we got the Lost Judgment, which is is a successor to the game Judgment. I think it's just called Judgment. In Japan, it's called Judge Your Eyes, which is a spin-off of the Yakuza series. And the reason why we are talking about that today is both because there's a Steam summer sale going on where you can buy Yakuza 0 for nothing. Go do it. It's one of the greatest games ever made by a human being. But we're also talking about it because, Cloudy, you like The Way of the House Husband, right?
Yes, I do. Why do you bring up this magical segue, Riiser?
I bring it up because Lost Judgment has gotten Hiroshi Tamaki to voice one of the characters in the game. Now, in case you don't know who this brilliant bastard is, he is one of the he is the actor of the protagonist of The Way of the Household Husband. Not household husband. Stay-at-home husband. House Husband, thank you. He plays him in the Japanese TV drama, and he does a fantastic job to the point where you cannot, like, after seeing that, I thoroughly believe that you cannot watch any of the animes and movies that I think they're going to be making of Way of the House Husband, and not wish for Hiroshi here to take over the role, because he is fucking good at it. So I was very pleasant surprised to see that Hiroshi got this role, just because, like, watching the show with my friend Alice, it was always very fun to see, like, the immortal Tatsu, as he's called in The Way of the House Husband, like, see this character and be like, I wish that he would go and meet Kiryu. And so now we get the next best thing, which is him playing a character that is visually mocapped after him as well, be in the spin-off series Lost Judgment. So yeah, it was just a little thing for me, because I'm a huge fan of this series, and I cannot recommend Judgment and Yakuza enough. And also the TV drama Way of the House Husband is definitely a lot of the jokes that you have seen in the manga, which are somehow enhanced by the fact that they are in real life. And they play them so well. There's also some new things, and it's one of those shows where you will laugh and you will fucking cry. They do some... it's a busy street outside. Sorry about the honking. But it's an amazing show that I definitely suggest that you guys go and check out.
I'm just gonna, like... I have not much to add because I'm just really excited about this. But, like, if you are gonna, like, experience Way of the House Husband and you're not gonna read the manga just day to day and just see the really good and funny drawings, just, like, watch the live drama of this, because it just hits in the way of its, like, comedic timing, and just the way everything does. It's really good. This is, like, I would say this is the quintessential way to watch Way of the House Husband, and the fact that the main character, is actually getting the immortal Tatsu himself is going to be tangentially in the Yakuza universe in here in Lost Judgment is pretty freaking amazing.
I'm looking at, like, recommended videos here on the side of YouTube, and I think he's also a musician.
Oh shit!
But again, that's kind of, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of like the thing about, like, Japanese idols or stars or something, is that they're typically expected to kind of be multi-talented.
There was, like, the one guy who made Takeshi's Challenge, who was, like, an actor, a video game programmer,
a writer, a movie director.
The guy who made my favorite game, Earthbound, Shigesato Itoi, was also another programmer, writer, musician, cooking guy. He had, like, a blog at some point. Just, like, a lot of a lot of you like. I don't think they're as common as they are nowadays. But like when you have someone like multifaceted, talented, that's kind of amazing.
He's also the voice actor in one of the Ghibli movies, I recall. Which
I probably couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but
no,
like
I
could
I,
believe it.
I like the Ghibli movies. I just haven't watched that many of them, and all of them kind of like the names of them all kind of like blend together in my head. So I couldn't say it either, but it's definitely cool to see just how much they care. And again, like that was also one of the reasons why so many people liked Iwata. Is like he was a programmer who would fucking show up in like a fucking like jogging pants and suit and just sit with the grunts and work on Smash and shit like that. These people are not afraid of wearing many hats. And like I can see in the chat, even Curious voice actor has a band, so that's definitely cool.
Damn.
But you know who doesn't have to wear many hats? It's someone who is so good at the one thing that they do, which is Junji Ito and his horror, because no one makes horror quite like Junji Ito. And one of his runaway success stories is Uzumaki. And that has been announced to get a anime I think there's already been an anime, but this one is like a much more faithful anime because they're keeping it black and white. They're keeping it in very like it basically just looks like animated versions of like animated frames of the actual manga. It looks fucking sick. Have you read Uzumaki?
I've actually read the story of like the Amagara Fault. But I haven't read Uzumaki yet, but I know what happens to like a decent extent, so keep talking.
It's amazing. I actually watched, and that was also another reason why I wanted to bring it up. Every Sunday I have like a movie night with my friend Alice, and we tend to watch horror. And so this time around we watched the live action movie of Uzumaki. It for all intents and purposes is actually pretty good. But it does have this thing where it kind of like stops like in the middle of the manga and it just like kind of like ends and it doesn't really do anything. Like it's not even like oh no, the horror like oh no, I'm alive, but the horror continues. No, I think it's like, oh, by the way, the hero died and everything's fucked. The end. So that was kind of shit. But everything up to that point was actually pretty good. There was some pretty good scares, pretty good directing. There was some weird points where it was like, you had some wholesome moments where, Kirie, as the protagonist is called, like she goes and buys a watermelon, and then there's like a scene transition where it like uses like anime sounds and like a weird flipping image transition thing, which is like oddly fitting for like a horror manga like this.
It's like turning the page. It's weird.
Yeah, but definitely really strong. I'm very curious to see how much they include in the anime, and it's one of those things kind of like similar to Chainsaw Man, where it's like there's some of these things that I would be very much surprised if you would even be okay with showing on TV. Like there are demon fetuses growing out of placenta that is stored in rooms or some shit. It is fucked up, bro. So how they're going to have like that in an anime and show that on TV, I don't know.
Probably. I mean, like it'll probably be like a special because, like, you gotta like think back to like how Japanese media kind of has a different set of standards than we do in the West.
Well, yeah, but
they let like a lot more crazy shit go on there. Like I know the shit that you see in Uzumaki is fucked. Like it is like it's visually stunning for the reason that it's freaking insane to look at. But I'm like, it'll probably be either like put to the side or as like a side thing you buy, or it'll have like one special and then never again. But I'm like, watch it when we get the chance, because it's gonna be a freaking experience.
I'm just thinking back to that anime Terra for Mars. Did you ever watch that?
Terra from Mars, that old thing with the puppets? Or am I thinking of something else entirely?
I don't think it was puppets. It was where they had sent cockroaches to Mars to terraform it, and they and then they returned to Mars afterwards and find out that all of the cockroaches have turned into like big, strong men with and the series were very criticized because all of the cockroaches apparently depicted black men or whatever. But anyway, the thing that made that one so interesting was because the way that they censored shit. Because it was very violent, it was very brutal, and so they censored it in the most weird way. Terra from Mars.
Okay, I'm starting to. Yeah, I was thinking of like It Came from Mars, that old like movie in like the '60s. But like this, I'm starting to remember you talking about.
Yeah, so I brought it up on screen, and for those of you who are listening to this or not watching it, you can find it by just like googling Terra for Mars censor on Google, and you will just see like characters holding big round orbs or just like big orbs flying in midair. There was nothing not even an attempt on obscuring it with any, because like if there's a medium that's very good at obscuring stuff and censoring it with the environment, it's definitely anime, because there's so many tits and asses out at all times that it's like, oh, the steam is covering it up, or oh, there's a leaf in the way or something. So the fact that we're not gonna even ask, so we're gonna put these black circles in is like, if that becomes like necessary for Chainsaw Man or Uzumaki, then we're gonna end up with one of those things where it's like I'm immediately pulled out of the immersion.
I think back to the Elzeron Chronicles stream where we tried to where we had to like censor all the freaking. Oh god, that stream was fun as hell. I miss it.
It was great. Yeah, it's a shame that Richard took it down.
Yeah, Richard. But it's whatever. It is what it is. But I'm
what it is.
Oh boy. Yeah, no, that's like it. God, in a series where like where like some series have fun with the way they have to get through their censorship and like make funny censors. Like here, where that one was just like, okay, let me just get the pen tool. Boom.
Yeah,
circle done.
Let me get the circle tool from Paint and just
boom. Like even there was like a I think a lot of like anime nowadays where like if something gets too violent, like there's like half the screen gets faded out, and I'm like, yeah, even that would be a little better, but like this is just lazy in like a phenomenal way.
Did you ever see how they censored Jotaro smoking in Stardust Crusaders?
Go ahead.
I need to find that. JoJo Stardust Crusaders smoking censor. I wonder if this works. Yeah, it's just they just fucking like obscure everything from the nose down of Jotaro. It looks so fucking dumb. We can't show this teenager smoking.
I'm like, because you know, I would have been fine if they like covered his eyes on top of that.
Yeah,
but like fucking, it's just the mouth with the smoke. You know what's happening.
And it's so weird. Like I'm looking at these pictures. Like there is that moment where someone is mimicking Jotaro and like taking on his face or whatever. I don't recall what his name is. But he's an adult, and so they have this thing where they're like, "Hey, Jotaro, let me see that thing where you smoke a lot of cigarettes all at once." And there they can show it because the person who has taken over, that is mimicking Jotaro's body, is an adult. And it's like, there was a meeting about this. I'm fucking certain about that. This is bending the rules to the nth degree. It's crazy. Claudia, did you have anything you wanted to add to the topics for today?
Honestly, like, I kind of got most of my things out of the way when I brought up the isekai debacle, because that was my biggest thing. But, like, I've just been having a lot of fun just listening to, like, you bringing up these topics and just tearing down these people and, like, giving really good advice. I'm still stuck on the fucking censorship for terraformers.
It's so bad.
It's so bad because, like, I'm thinking back to other series I've watched, like Elfen Lied, like Higurashi, where they're like super ultra violent and like pink tool. Bloop.
Yeah.
Yep.
The funnest thing about it is that it opened up like the floodgates for memes and shit. So you had like these people instead of holding like the black orb, there's like, oh, now one of these people is like making a Rasengan or holding a basketball or something, and like that's what I'm here for. That's what I live for.
I love the internet sometimes, just dumb shit like this.
But speaking of the internet, is there a way where you can send a letter through the internet in case that you have any questions or anything that you want, let's say, two people on a podcast to talk about? And if so, where should they send it?
Oh, I'm glad you asked, because we have a very specific receptacle for this, where if anybody in chat, would like to send us a question so we can answer it, which we're going to answer after I give the spiel, you can send your questions to webcastrelief@gmail.com. That's webcastrelief@gmail.com.
So not the Webcast Relief, but just Webcast Relief.
Just Webcast Relief.
Okay. At gmail.com?
At gmail.com, yes.
Okay, great. No, we will not answer them if they're on Discord, because then we will have forgotten about them.
This is very true. Although, like, you can visit the Discord and, like, hang out with Riiser, like, talk about, or get, like, data stuff. But, like, specifically for the Webcast Relief, we made a Gmail for it, and we got a couple questions we can answer.
Well, what do we got?
All right. So the first one we got from a Leonard Lampstagram, who asked us a very important question.
Mm-hmm.
Who would win, a gun with a sword or a sword with a gun? Tell the quality of what we got to answer today. Although I think the answer is obvious.
I mean, it would probably be like a gun with a sword.
Yes, it would be a gun with a sword. Because, like, these things actually exist in not in nature, but, like, in history.
No, in nature. Like you go and see, there's a capybara over there. There's an alligator. If you listen real close, you can hear, like, this owl. And over here is a gun sword.
There's a gun sword. So, like, historically, when I think of a gun with a sword, I imagine, like, a fucking like a rifle with, like, a really long bayonet at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But when I think of sword with a gun, I think of, like, a rapier with a pistol attached to the hilt.
A gunblade.
An obvious gunblade, yeah. But no, that's actually the funny thing. There's actually a historical precedent for that. But, like, the way that works is really dumb, because it's like the sword with a gun is like a pistol, and, like, trying to aim with it is unwieldy because you got a huge ass fucking piece of iron to the side. Whereas, like, the bayonet gun with a sword, the superior Chad version, can just be aimed and shoot perfectly fine. So, like, if you had the gun with a sword and the sword with a gun, the gun with the sword is definitely gonna.
I feel that you have put a lot of thought into this, like a worrying, like, big amount. To go behind the curtain a little, you like received and looked at these emails before the podcast.
I looked at this one and one other. I haven't seen all of them though.
Oh, okay.
And, like, because this was, like, the first one we got, and, like, oh, I'm so excited, and the question was so short, I saw it in the preview.
Yeah, okay.
So I couldn't really help it. But I'm like, oh, wait, but who would win? who would win? Because like my first instinct was sword with a gun because the sword has a gun. But then I'm like, wait a minute, dude, is there like historical precedent? Let's back this up. Because like if a gun is swinging a sword, then the sword with a gun win. But if we look at it like in a physical sense, we could actually have a good answer. But yes, that's what I thought. That is my conclusion for this very important question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Gun with a sword. Do we have another one? Or do we have time for another one?
We have like we have time for like a bunch of them. Caesar gave us like 4 to work with, and then we got one.
Let's take one more.
All right. I'll hold off Caesar's for a while for like the next session. But like this one I want to ask we got from Flyleaf Fiction.
Yeah.
And this one says, is there a piece of media you find yourself watching, consuming at least once a year, like a holiday tradition, or just something you really, really like?
Oh, that's actually a very good question.
It is a very good question.
And for the record, I sincerely mean it's not one of those. That's a very good question. No, I actually legit mean it. Because every year around New Year, I already mentioned that my friend Alice and I we watch movies weekly, but every year around New Year we have a tradition where we have to watch a movie centered around video games. And I think it started out from either watching Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter. I don't recall which, but we like every time that around that time we watch a dumb shitty movie about video games, and it can be bad or it can be good, but we tend to find the bad ones, and then in between we sometimes watch like Monster Hunter or whatever the fuck has come out. So that's my pick.
So this one should be a little obvious for me, but I don't do this like regularly every single year, but I always like after a while I always come back to myself to like finishing through Earthbound, because I love that game to death, and it's all like if you give me enough time to prepare, I could probably give you like the ins and outs and all the tiniest little trivia of this one series. And because it's so charming, it's so fun and sweet. And like I go back in and I learn something new every time I play. Like if it's something as crazy like, oh, this enemy drops this item, who would have guessed? Or I can't believe this one random NPC in the world fucking says that. Or you have like these little two little white pixels in the middle of the Gobi Desert, and they're just sentient sesame seeds, and they're just trying to find the other one. And it's like these weird stories happening around. They put so much into like this tiny game that like inspired a whole fucking cursed chart I'm gonna show you after the stream's over. We can bring it up on our next podcast. And I'm like, I always go back to that one game all the time, and I just keep finding more reasons to love it. So yeah, Earthbound would be my pick. I
actually watched the Super iPad Wolf made that video where he talked about Earthbound and Mother Free. I don't know which is an important distinction or not. So I think that was it. And like watching it, I was just like, man, I fucking wish that was like easily like I could get that on my Switch or something. Because that looks so charming and so well written. Like it's definitely going to have some moments where like the idiot in me who has played video games since I was little and had hair and all that shit, I have been primed for like video game like mentality. So the fact that you can open a box and a firework comes out and nothing else happens, that is gonna like fuck me up, because I'm so used to that triggered something, or that gave me an item, or that it triggered an event or something. So so the fact that there's a game where it's just no, we just put it in because we thought it would be fun, which is an amazing thing, don't get me wrong, but for me who is so used to how video games were and are now, it's such a like far cry from what I'm used to.
You know, it's funny because like Mother 3 is like an excellent example of that conversation we were talking about earlier about how you gotta like prime yourself for like a tone to break video game logic. Because Mother 3 does this a lot, like for the God's sake, the reason like save point exists is because there's sentient frogs all over the world that save your progress. But like over time, you just like you see them like have little personalities of their own. They're not just like little floating crystals you touch to like remember. You just talk to these frogs and they save your progress. And if you want to come back or not, you always come back to them. And it's like you get weirdly attached to these kinds of things, and like you almost forget you're in a video game because you're playing this video game. And it's like the story of Mother 3 especially is so serious and so like totally heavy, but it never loses its charm or like its silliness on top of that. It's like really something special, man. Like if honestly play the like if you want, I can probably like hook you up with like a ROM hack or some shit, or like find a way to play, because that's the only way to play it.
You mean totally legal?
Totally legal, legit.
Copy from Nintendo.
Copy from Nintendo, please. God, I'm in pain. but yeah, like I would always. This is why I always like. I keep saying constantly why I would rather have a translation to Mother 3 than ask for a new installment for like a Mother 4, because people need to play this game, in my opinion.
They kind of like what's the English term? Caught lightning in a barrel.
Caught lightning in a bottle, yeah.
Yeah, a
like,
bottle. That's it.
Yeah, but yeah, like you see like how like Undertale, Omori, and a bunch of other games were inspired by like Earthbound and shit. And then you got like Mother 3, which is like its own unique thing. It's just good. Do we answer this one question in the chat, or do we end it here?
Yeah, we can make it short. Do you have any thoughts on video game preservation? Must be a real bastard for someone like Cloudy so into Earthbound/Mother.
Pain. Games should always be preserved. Games always like. I fully endorse like making copies and backups, because like obviously with that you're always going to run to like piracy and shit, and that's just an unfortunate consequence. That's just what happens. But I'm like, the reason I could never, and I mean never, get into games that are always online, that you buy the physical disc and then like the service ends after a certain point. Even no matter how popular it was, I could just never bring myself into it, because like I know like if I come back to this in like 30 years and this game doesn't work, or like there's no copy, or like all the servers are down because the company went under, it's just like another dead piece of plastic.
Yeah.
Like you can still blow on your fucking like SNES cartridges. I can still go into the attic, dust off Earthbound, and play it on the actual SNES. If I could find where the actual cartridge was. But, like, I still play it on my legitimate copy on the Wii U, for God's sakes. But it's like, at the very least, I was pumped for that, because at least they kept, like, a version of it.
Yeah.
But, like, when it comes to things like preservation, like, games need to be preserved. Like, in Scott Pilgrim, I, like, advocated everybody to hard go into the copies. Like, what if you buy it on Steam, save it, make several copies, spread it around? And I'm like, because that was like the biggest example of like a game everybody loved got taken down for no good reason, and then no one was able to play it for a while. Yeah. It's like Flappy Bird on iPhone, for God's sakes. Like, even something as stupid as that is like when everything's sold only on like a digital market, but there isn't a way to like back it up or save it. Like, no one's gonna play these games anymore. How the fuck are you gonna explain Flappy Bird to Gen Zers who've never touched it when that shit came out? How big that stupid pipe?
I don't wanna.
Exactly, but you gotta. And like Yin said, like PT, that shit was a fucking shame, because like it was an experience, like an example of a project that could have gone super right, and then it just got.
I think like I don't think it comes as any surprise that I feel very strongly about PT, and that was actually the one that I was going to bring up, which is that PT, like it's so interesting that like PT was a demo, and it fucking changed the entire landscape of horror video games forever. It's just a fucking demo did that. So the fact that you cannot legitimately get it now is it's so weird. And that was actually going to lead me into another thing that you were kind of like bringing up before, which is that we see that a lot with. I think I've seen it a lot with Nintendo, especially, which is that there are certain games or certain features that we in the West are not, like, we don't have access to, mother free or PT or whatever the fuck, and then people obviously make like pirated versions of it or something like that. And normally I'm not a huge advocate for piracy. I'm not gonna like deny that I've downloaded some songs here and there and whatever the fuck, but it's more like if you enjoy something and you want to give money to the developer, you should absolutely do that at any time, because otherwise they're not gonna make it. But if you make it so that I have no means legally to get your product, then you should not be able to get on my ass for doing it illegally.
Oh yeah, that's basically my thought process as well. Like, honestly, like I'm going to say this because I was one of those assholes who would yell at Reggie to localize Mother 3 when obviously like the fan patch exists.
Yeah.
The point is not because like you can. It's like the way to play the game. The point is, like, you're not even giving me the option to give you my money. Because, like, if you give me the option to buy this game legally, I will take it. I told people this. If Mother 3 comes out and it's being sold for $60, I will give it to 10 friends for free. And I will have that come out of my own pocket, because I believe people deserve to play this game.
Yeah.
But like it's just one of those things. Like, you're not even giving me the damn option to do it.
Yeah. So definitely like the whole thing of making a game so that it's on a timer or simply not releasing it to people who will strongly give you money for it. I cannot for the life of me see a reason why like not to do that.
Yeah, like. If it ever comes to like this is also why like just so this will be the last thing I bring up for today, but like World of Warcraft Classic before the Blizzard one, there was like this private server made for this whole community built around like the original World of Warcraft, and people love this. They needed it. They wanted it. And it was this thing where, like, the original creators themselves, like, oh, no, you don't know what you want. Thinking that they knew better, because that whole thing. And obviously that wasn't the case, because they ended up bowing down and, like, making their own WoW Classic anyway. But it's like, you didn't give them an option, of course, what the fuck they were going to do. And then, like, they forcibly shut it down, and we're complaining, and we're wondering, like, why do our fans not like our product?
Because you can't.
Because you can't scare. But yeah, no, like, I'm a huge advocate for games preservation, like...
Just media preservation in general, I feel.
Basically, yeah, like, lost media is a painful thing.
Yeah.
You have no... Like, it's crazy the shit you'll find on, like, a broken hard drive and shit. But it's like, whatever, if you love something, make copies of it.
Like, we were just talking about Elseron Chronicles. Like... You can say what you will about the overall quality of it. Like, it was not very good, but it's something that we fondly remember. And we want to, like, experience more of, but we can't at this point.
Like, that shit was the greatest, that thing's our most popular Jello Cartello stream.
Easily.
Today. Like, by a wide margin. It's crazy. And I'm just sitting here like... Okay, Emily and I... The night before the stream went on, we read the entirety of Elseron Chronicles, and there were things I was like alluding to in the stream. I was like, we're gonna get to it, where shit goes balls to the fucking wall. Like, there was like gonna be My Little Pony fusions. There was gonna be this weird existential crisis about like Christianity or some shit. Like, you could tell it was going through some things with this comic, and it was actually really fascinating. And then it's just got like, it's done. and we got robbed of that.
Yeah.
So I'm making a point to whenever we do a new stream, I go through the whole comic and copy everything, like we did with Project Second before we almost lost it.
Yeah. Bane really saved that one.
Yeah. God, the ending of that was perfect, though.
Yeah. Richard, if you ever hear this, bring back Elseron. We should make a hashtag.
Bring back Elseron.
But yeah, I think like that's our final thoughts on the whole thing. Just keep shit available, and like, even if it's not very popular or something, there are going to be people who really like it, really care for it, or have like some kind of guilty pleasure with it, or just want to use it as a reference tool for either like criticism or validation or something. I feel deleting something is not the right way to go.
Exactly. Like, even if you're ashamed of it, like, it's better to have it out. I say this, and I forgot I lost my like really shitty Sprite comics when I was growing up. So
I erased both of my webcomics as well. Well, one of them. The other one got taken down. So I know that feeling all too well. So we're not like innocent in this either.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, if someone really cares about it and they're like bleeding, like, I think it's fine to give it to them.
Yeah.
Like, because like this is just one of those things where it's like, man, I want to play Mother 3, and I want my friends to play Mother 3. I want them to experience what it's like to talk to a frog and connect and feel emotionally attached to a safe icon.
That does sound very Mother 3-esque. I think that was all for us for today.
We did get a couple questions, but we'll save it for next time on the podcast.
Oh yeah. And again, questions, topics, whatever, send them to the to Webcast Relief at gmail.com.
That's Webcast Relief at gmail.com.
With topics and stuff, you can also add us on Discord. But questions and stuff, send those to the mailbox. That was that's the first podcast down.
Yay.
What can we expect from you in the coming week?
This weekend I'm gonna be doing a limited run animation collaboration. It's called Maple Limitless 4. So I have like 4 to 8 hours to make a 1-minute fight scene with Maple Story sprites. It's gonna be fun and painful. We'll see where it goes.
Dude, you need to let me once you're done.
I probably need to. I probably also need to eat and sleep, but we'll get that when we get there. How about you? Anything on the pipeline for you, Lasse?
Well, I'm still working on the next webcomic relief. It's been slow pickings because today was actually my last day working as a teacher, and there's been a lot of stuff with that work that has made me like having to crunch a little bit, which was what we talked about earlier. And that was again because like I was waiting on stuff from a proofreader and stuff like that. So I've been focusing a lot on that. So now that I'm done with that, I can finally focus on the webcomic relief again. And just today, I wanted to bring this up. I actually bought something for the webcomic relief, which is a green screen that is like, it comes with like it's like a sheet that you pull up and a roller, but you roll it up instead of rolling it down. So most of the future episodes are going to be using a really clean green screen, because what I've been doing this far is just like buy a green cloth and then hang it from the ceiling. But I don't have that option anymore. And there was a lot of creases and folds in that. So you ended up with some wonky looking green screen. So with this, we're going to be getting some much better green screen, because I can understand that people really liked that in the early episodes where I like popped up behind characters and stuff. And I also enjoyed doing that. So yeah, going to be playing around with that, and probably been playing some more Guilty Gear on this Twitch channel here, Crownless King. So if you guys get people who followed this stream, this channel, if you get a notification and it says Guilty Gear or something like that, that's because this is also my gaming channel. So
Yeah.
that's what I have in my pipeline. And speaking of which, of Guilty Gear, I have picked out a little Guilty Gear track to play us out. So unless you have more to add, then I think we should close it off for today.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
This